What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? DoctorDDub here, and today I have got an incredibly exciting video for you guys. I'm actually joined by Julie, the community manager for Farm Folks today. Julie, why don't you go ahead and say hello?
Hi, I'm Julie, community manager.
This is going to be a real chill, sort of informal interview. Neither of us have really done a video interview over the internet before, so bear with us. But as community manager, what exactly are your responsibilities?
Well, I'm sure as many people have seen, my primary responsibility is herding the cats that are the folks in the community on the Discord. I spend a lot of time crawling around on Twitter and Reddit, Instagram, looking for people who are talking about the game, trying to get people to talk about the game and join the community. Additionally, I do run the social media, so a lot of the stuff that you see on Twitter and all the other social medias, that's me and my twisted sense of humor. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do, is a lot of talking to people.
Awesome. Well, you seem to be pretty good at that. Okay, so getting into sort of more of the interview-ish questions, we both obviously know the game's developed by Overgrown Studios, but to a lot of people, that is a brand new name for them, Overgrown Studios, since it's their first game.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us some more insight as to the people that compose Overgrown Studios so we can get a better sense for the guys that are working on the game?
Yes. Okay, so you have Mitch, who is basically our team leader. He is the most mysterious member. He definitely likes to talk in the community sometimes, and
sometimes
he'll pop in now and then and say things. He used to be a lot more active, I think, before I took over, but now he gets to focus more on his stuff going on, which is kind of what I prefer. You know, let the devs work on the game, and I'll handle the cat herding in the Discord. But Mitch is generally a very fun guy. He loves pizza. He adores pizza. I don't know his take on pineapple on pizza. He is very corny. But
I sense a farm pun in there somewhere.
When we talk about produce in the game, I always say we should rate produce on how fun it is to throw at Mitch.
Okay.
But other than that, he's kind of a mystery, even to me. I don't know a whole lot about him, but he's a good guy, fun to talk to, and whenever I need him to do something, I offer him pizza. Generally gets him to do what I need. Then you have Ethan, who is our artist. He is incredible. Seriously incredible. I've been watching his work from the start of the game to what we have now, and seeing where he started and where he is now and what he's capable of. Yeah, he's god tier. I love talking to him. He's very fun. And he's probably gonna freak out a little over me once again saying that he is our god tier artist. And
does he not do well with flattery?
I wouldn't say he doesn't do well, but he can get a little spazzy, which I adore, honestly. And then finally, the last member that would like to be talked about would be Henry, and he is working on the story portion. He's kind of a shy guy, so you don't see him a whole lot interacting with the community, but he does watch over and kind of lurk around in the Discord. He is really good at what he does. He's a fantastic storyteller. He's made some amazing characters that I can't wait to show you guys later on. I'm sure that D-Dub's gonna go over them all, as he's done before for the 3 marriage candidates, and
And the potential fourth.
And the potential... Yes, you are very excited about that baker.
I am.
You are very excited about that baker. So I'll see if we can't get that one to be the next one introduced.
My fingers are crossed.
We'll see.
So what about the development, the game developer background of these guys? Like, you just gave some personal insight to them, but like, what experience do they have? Have they made other games before with other studios, or is this their first time making a game, period, or what's the deal on that?
So I'm not sure about Mitch. I don't believe so. He hasn't spoken about it in the past. Ethan, this is the first game that he's worked on, obviously doing a fantastic job. And Henry, this is not the first game that he's worked on.
Okay. Not that I have doubts at all. What I've seen looks amazing, so I just wanted to ask it so it's been asked.
Yeah.
You mentioned you wanted to talk a little bit about the history of the game. The game that we've seen in the trailers is not the game that was originally developed. The whole engine has been changed. This game's been around for a while. There was a pre-alpha a long time ago that came out and then got pulled. And do you want to give any light on any of that?
Yeah, so when I first found Farm Folks, it was a very tiny, obscure little thing that there were barely 20 people in the Discord at the time, including the devs. It was being developed on Unity, and I bought into the original, like, pre-alpha. It was a mess. The camera was so unstable, I physically couldn't play it. I paid for it, but I couldn't play it. I complained a lot about that camera, and I will continue to complain about that camera until the day I die, I'm sure. But the game was worked on for about 6 months, and then we kind of stopped hearing about it. Like, total silence. The game stopped being updated, and I'll be honest, I just kind of thought, okay, project's dead. You know, I put $10 into it. I wasn't going to be upset about that. And then I'd say 8 or 9 months went by, and then Mitch and Ethan started to share like little screen cap snippets of things that they'd been working on, and we find out that they've completely switched engines, and the game's not dead. It's still being worked on, so I kind of got myself back in touch with Mitch and started talking to him, and then still a lot of time passed with very, very little information, and then no one really heard much, including myself, until the Kickstarter dropped. So that was kind of a surprise to everyone. There were rumors floating around that, oh, there's possibly a publisher. We don't know. Like, even I didn't know, and I talked to Mitch on a somewhat regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the Kickstarter dropped, you know, things kind of went from there, and
yes, they did.
It's where we get here. But yeah, the game's been in development for quite a while. The idea and concepts have all been there, and those are relatively still the same. The big thing that's changed is the engine and a little bit of the art style, because the art style that we saw from the Unity version versus the one here in Unreal is a lot different, and I prefer it a lot more because it's a lot more vibrant and colorful and fun.
Me too. Anything else you wanted to say about the history of the game? Or is that it?
No, other than that, there's not too much to say. Like I said, I wasn't really brought onto the team until very shortly before the Kickstarter. And then Mitch kind of gave me a heart attack because when he said, okay, we're gonna announce the Kickstarter, I thought, okay, he's gonna do a pre-announce, I'm gonna have, you know, a week or two to start gathering people. No, he dropped the Kickstarter, and I was like, okay.
I guess my job starts now.
we're gonna jump in the deep end here, and it was like that first week was just me scrambling and mad dash trying to get everything set up, and it was fun. I do love chaos. It was fun.
Well, luckily the game got funded and you guys managed to nab a publisher, which makes it, in a lot of people's eyes, that much more official. Like, it's going to happen. I know a lot of people with Kickstarters have their doubts, but since you guys now have partnered with a publisher, I know myself and a lot of others are a lot more excited about the game than we were. So
yeah,
that's good to see.
Actually, if there is one thing that I can say about that, Mitch and Ethan will not let this project die.
Good.
They adore it. I adore it. I won't let them let this die, personally. I know that you know a little bit about my personality and with how closely I work with Mitch and Ethan. I would bust some heads if they ever tried to let the project drop.
The amount of times I've heard, I won't let this game release unless X, Y, or Z is in it from Julie. It's good to hear.
I'm a bit of,
right.
I can be a bit of a bully.
Sometimes that's needed, though. All right, let's get talking more about the meat and potatoes of the game. You want to go ahead and start with the first thing people will probably see, character customization?
Mm-hmm.
So far, what we've seen in both the trailer and just some of the images that have been going around, it was a female playable character. Will there be a male option as well, or how all is that working?
There will be a male option. At least as far as I know. Mitch has already confirmed there will be male and female. For right now, they're just using the one kind of playable character model just to get things started and worked on. But later down the line, we will see a lot more character customization. And that'll include gender and clothes and hairstyle. And yes, I have been asked 1,000 times, yes, skin tone will also be an option. It's just, we are in very early alpha. So it's not something that they're too focused on right now, is making sure all the character customization options are there when we don't even have really an alpha prototype out.
Fair enough. And on that note, being that it's 2018, I know I've seen on the, I think it was on the frequently asked questions on the Kickstarter page, that same-sex marriage will be a thing, but on a similar subject, people have asked if there's going to be a what's known as a non-binary system for gender selection, whether it's choosing male or female. I've heard other games that have come out somewhat recently-ish, like The Sims 4, for example, has the ability to select whether or not your character can like get pregnant or what genders they're interested in. Do you know if something like that is being considered at all, or is it just male or female and skin tones, hair, etc.?
So I don't know for sure, because that's kind of a bit further down the line. It's something, I'm sure that you're familiar with our suggestions list, and that is on there. I don't think that'd be too difficult to add, really, just to have that option in there for people. So while I'm not going to confirm it, I will say it probably isn't going to be something that's difficult to add, and it might be something we can see in the future.
Well, that's good to hear. Speaking about character customization some more, from the trailer, we've seen that character customization is obviously a thing, as you just confirmed. We saw changes in outfits, hairstyle, hair color. Will we be able to change like physical features of our characters as well, or will it just be a selection? I know you mentioned a lot of that stuff is still a little ways off in the development timeline, but do you know if that's something that's planned?
Physical features as in, like, body types?
Like, would you be able to change the body type, customize eye color, face shape, stuff like that? I'm thinking, like, Stardew Valley comes to mind, and it's just, you had outfit selections and hairstyle, hair color, and eye color, but as far as your physical look, there wasn't much you could change?
I don't know about body type. I'm sure that there will be face type. Remind me after, and I will show you a face type that I'm going to put forward to be pushed into the game, at least maybe as an Easter egg of some kind. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that face type and eye color and all that is going to be a part of it. I don't know about the body type, though. That hasn't really been discussed.
Okay, fair enough. And a lot of people have asked for various outfits for NPCs. I know we'll be able to change our own, obviously during character customization, and that there will be a tailor in the game that will allow us to modify our outfits, presumably as we please. But will there be any sort of varying outfits, either by season or by time of year or anything, for NPCs?
So that's something that I think Ethan mentioned that he wanted to do. And I've heard him mention it more than once. So I think it's something we definitely want to see in the game. I would love to see it personally, because I love the idea of the world kind of being more alive around you rather than, stock characters running a set path every day in the same clothes, kind of like Hey Arnold style of open their closet and you see all the same clothes there. But yes, I know that's something that Ethan wants to see, and I would love to see. Again, that would be way later down the line, but probably, hopefully, something you can expect.
That's good to hear. I have a feeling we'll be hearing later down the line for a lot of these things, so hypotheticals and soon will be pretty commonplace here. Soon, trademark.
Soon.
All right, so let's move on to farming. You mentioned in one of the Kickstarter updates that fertilizer will be a thing that we'll be able to use on our crops to enhance their quality. What kind of quality system can we expect? Is it just going to be something super simplistic like A, B, C, or S tier or whatever, or something a little bit more complex than that? And is this going to also translate from, is it going to be the same quality system for our crops as it will be for our animal products and artisan goods? Will it carry over to those systems?
So I could probably talk about what I want for hours in terms of I love a game with tons of complexity.
Okay.
For folks who have played the original Harvest Moon, they will know that at least generally in the 3DS versions, there was a star rating of like 1 to 5 stars that you could build up your crops on, and I believe your animal products were the same way. And then here in the most recent Story of Seasons game, which is the game being developed by the original Harvest Moon team, they kind of overhauled how the quality system is handled in terms of it's still got the star rating, but you could increase like the juiciness, the color, the flavor, the taste, all those different kinds of things, which I went absolutely ballistic over because I am a micromanaging person. So I spent way too long getting everything maxed out. So in terms of farm folks, I would love to see something like that, and I'm always going to push for more on that. We haven't decided on the structure of the quality system for either animals or crops, but that is something that is being actively discussed. We want to make sure that the system is both approachable to casual players, but then it also has something kind of meaty for people like me who will want to spend 100 hours. I don't care if I have to spend 100 hours, maxing out my turnip stats. The same goes for animals. I would love to see a very rich system for maxing out animals. I kind of push for a Pokemon style of like stat system where you can have like, oh, this animal has a great coat, but maybe not that great quality of products kind of thing.
So like IVs?
IVs and EVs.
In Pokemon?
Oh, I go nuts for that. We won't talk about the amount of time that I spent breeding a perfected Lucario just because he was one of my favorite Pokemon, or the fact that I have a level 100 Skitty on all of my games. But yes, I definitely push for a meatier system in terms of quality. But in the beginning, you're probably going to see a very simple system.
In the beginning as in the start of the game, or the beginning as in alpha?
In the beginning as in alpha. You're probably
Okay.
just going to see maybe a star system or something like that. And I don't know if that's going to stay or if they're going to expand on that. So, for now...
So long story short, we don't know yet, but you're going to push for a approachable yet complex
Yes.
quality system?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I understand there's a lot of stuff that won't have even been considered yet or thought too much on yet, as it's not something that happens till later, but...
Well, this is definitely something that's under heavy
You
discussion.
said actively being discussed?
Right. This is one of the things that kind of you need to have a foundation for early in terms of how it wants to be approached, and especially since this is a farming game, you know, it's something that needs to be considered very early, is how you're going to approach the farming aspect of it.
I would agree. And as far as how you guys are planning on approaching the watering aspect, we know there will be a watering can, we can get sprinklers, that's been confirmed, and I would imagine a rainstorm would also water our crops. Other than those three options, are there any other ways of watering our crops? Based on what I read on some of the updates, I read between the lines a lot of times, and there were some things that hinted to me, at least, that we might be expecting some other type of watering system, but that could just be me.
You know, I'm actually not sure on that. The only other system I can think of that might be a possibility is I know that vehicles will be in the game. Mitch has mentioned that he kind of wants to do tractors and stuff like that. So maybe something
I
like that?
could get on board with that. The tractor mod for Stardew Valley comes to mind, and people love that, so that could be really cool to see.
Yeah, the thing with the tractor mod in Stardew Valley, I think it kind of makes the game a little too easy.
I agree.
But I know that Mitch has mentioned tractors. This game is set in kind of the 1920s level of technology, so maybe we'll see something that'll make our lives a little easier without doing all the work for us, which would be the ideal system, I think.
Okay, that's cool. When you said vehicles for watering, I pictured one of the trucks that sprays down construction sites to keep all the dirt from flying up into the air. I don't know. That sounds exciting, though, if you could drive along your crops and water them or something.
Yeah.
All hypotheticals, but
Yeah.
still exciting nonetheless. All right, and as far as the overall farming mechanic is concerned, the basic process in pretty much any farming game is fairly simplistic. Hoe the dirt, plant your seeds, water your seeds, harvest your crops. It's pretty much the same. Will there be any features that add some complexity to this system, like pests that eat your crops, or diseases they can get infected with, any sort of hybrid breeding system, anything of the sort?
So, the first two, I can't say too much. There will be something in place regarding
Pests and disease?
things that you have to watch out for your crops to make
Okay.
them a little bit more manageable, or more manage intensive, I should say.
Require more effort from the player rather than just plant and
Yeah.
pay no mind to it? Okay.
And also fertilizer is going to be a thing for crop quality, which we've already discussed a little bit.
Mhm.
Beyond that, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do with plants. When you have a garden, you can do weeding, and you water the plants and maybe give them fertilizer. But other than that, I mean, plants are always going to be plants. They're kind of just there. I think the systems that you would be more able to do things in would be animals, in terms of, you know, brushing and gaining affection points with your animals, and, you know, later on maybe you slap a saddle on your unicow and ride it into town.
So no word one way or the other on like a hybrid system? Because I know that is doable with crops. We've seen it in games like, Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life, I believe? One of the GameCube?
Mm-hmm.
You could breed hybrid crops and all that?
I would love to see some sort of crossbreeding or cross-pollination system for crops.
Like a banapple or a pine berry or weird combinations of plants.
Oh, I would love it. The weirder the better, the more combinations the better. But again, I've talked a lot about how I'm all for more complexity when this is kind of meant to be a bit of a simple game. But as much as I would love to see it, it's something that's being debated on whether or not will be in the game. So I'm not going to say one way or the other, as that isn't confirmed, but it is being discussed.
Okay. That's music to my ears. My personal opinion, I think it would fit beautifully with animals that don't exist in real life, like a unicorn crossbred with a cow, you get a unicow. I think it only makes sense to have plants that behave in a similar fashion, but that's just my wishful thinking.
Hey, we should have someone mentioned the unicorn, which is a stalk of corn with just a single, horn on the top.
With a horn. It's a whole different meaning to unicorn. I love it.
Hey, I think I love stuff like that. It serves no other purpose. It's just normal corn, but it's got a random horn on it.
Add some variety. All right, and speaking of unicorns, that kind of segues us into our next topic, animals. When it comes to animals, like we were just talking about, we've seen several that are very fantastical, would be the word, such as like the Alola, the Unicow, the Galdry. Would you say there's what would you say the balance is between sort of normal, realistic farm animals, such as a cow, chicken, sheep, goat, etc., versus these more fantastical creatures?
So that's kind of difficult to say because we haven't settled on the final list of animals that are going to be in the game.
Okay.
There are going to be quite a few. Mitch has stated over 40. I'm thinking it's going to be between 40 and 50 at the release of the game. As far as mystical or creative versus, real animals, I want to say about 50-50. But again, that's not a confirmation because we have not decided on the final list. But I do know that there are still some clever little critters out there that are going to follow the lines of the Alola, the Galdry, and the Unicow in terms of being a little bit different.
All right, I'm excited to see that. One thing that I saw that was confirmed and is no longer confirmed on the suggestions list was animals growing old and passing away. Do you know if that's still a thing, if it was ever a thing? Is that something we can expect to see?
That might have been a mistake on my part. I think I might have put confirmed on the wrong thing. It's discussed, and I would say partially confirmed because, animals can't live forever, unfortunately. As much as I would love for my cats to be eternal. So I don't know how that's going to be handled, but I will say tentative confirmed.
Okay. Because I've seen a lot of people discussing it and how it's not realistic to have them live forever, and how, in some of the Farm or Harvest Moon games, your animals could get sick, and if you don't cure them with a miracle potion or something like that, they could end up passing away because you didn't take care of them. Mm-hmm. So for me, that just adds another level of realism and depth to the game, but I understand if that's not going to be added, but
well, the idea...
It's wanted, but not confirmed.
The idea behind farm folks as a whole is we want to make a spiritual successor to Harvest Moon. And that means that we kind of have to keep to this PG concept, kind of glossing over certain elements, because the game was always meant to be a bit of a Zen experience where you don't think about things like your animals dying and stuff like that. But at the same time, just because it's a spiritual successor doesn't mean that we can't have our own elements. So it's a matter of finding a balance on that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's all about striking a balance. On the subject of animals passing away, on the flip side of that, can animals be born? And I guess this is a two-part question. When we purchase animals from whoever we purchase them through, presumably the animal merchant or whoever sells us animals, Della possibly, will they be babies that have to grow into full-grown adults? And on the same note, can adult animals be bred to produce offspring?
So a breeding system has been confirmed, as in
Okay.
you will have, at the very least, baby animals.
Yay!
I don't know to what extent. This is another one of those things that we have discussed. For instance, if we're not going to have a meat system or some sort of butchery system for animals, what would be the point of a male cow kind of thing?
Fair.
Other than, they're fun. They're cute. I wouldn't mind having one just to kind of roam around, or maybe slap a saddle on it. Put a saddle on everything, honestly. Rideable chickens. Rideable chickens. I would love to see
Or
that.
if you were required to have a male cow in order for your female cows to give birth,
Yeah.
that could be a possibility. Not saying it is,
Yeah.
but it could be.
It's, like I said, it's being discussed. I do know that there will be male and female avatars of all the animals, or male and female 3D assets for all of the animals.
So they'll physically look different from each other?
Yes. And we've already seen, for instance, sheep have rams as well. So you'll see the male sheep have horns. The goats, they also, there's the ones with horns and the ones without. So there will be male and female animals, and there will be a breeding system of some kind.
What about when we purchase animals? Do you know if they'll come to us as full-grown adults, or if we purchase them as young and need to allow time for them to grow to production age?
Unknown at this time.
Unknown?
That's I haven't even heard that one discussed yet. So unknown.
Fair enough. And that kind of leads me to my next question, which you already kind of discussed, hasn't been confirmed yet. I was going to ask if there was any butchery related in the game. I know some people who are vegan, and I know a lot of people like to play as themselves in the game, and they don't, not that they would partake in that, but they don't want that to be a requirement to progress with the story. So, like, if someone wanted to, could they exclusively farm and totally neglect the animal side of things?
I believe.
Not that I personally would, because
Yeah.
the animals are so adorable, but I know there are people out there who might consider that, or the other way around, completely neglect farming and solely focus on animals. Would those be possibilities?
In an ideal sense, yes.
I know quest implementation hasn't been added yet, so that hasn't been discussed if that's going to be a requirement
Yeah,
to
I think
bring Timmy 3 eggs from your chickens, but
we can put some kind of system in place for people who don't want to partake in certain elements. For instance, as you mentioned, vegans, or people who just don't like the idea of watering crops every day. So it would probably be a system, maybe, hey, I don't really want to take this quest, or I don't have the means of, fulfilling the elements of this quest, bring me some milk. Well, how about not? How about I bring you a turnip instead? No. So I'm not sure. I know that Mitch has stated for sure that there is not going to be a butchery system, which I can understand just for...
makes sense in a game of this style.
Yeah, we kind of want to keep it lighthearted, and I know that a lot of people don't have issue with that. Personally, I wouldn't have an issue with some kind of butchery system, even though I adore animals so much, but I can understand why when we're trying to be a spiritual successor to Harvest Moon, there's never really been a butchery system in the game, and it's always been more focused around the lighthearted aspects of farming.
I can definitely understand the reasoning for that. Okay, lastly on the animal front, we've already seen that pets, or companion critters as you guys are calling them, will be in the game, and we've seen the Galdry will be one of them. Do you know how many others we can expect to see? I know you guys said the animal list isn't flushed out yet, but is there like a rough number that you guys are shooting for, or?
Well, I can say in terms of a rough number, there are dogs and cats.
Okay. So 3, at least.
I might throw a fit if there weren't cats in the game. Beyond that, I don't know, honestly. I don't know what they would want to consider pets, or what they would want to consider livestock. For instance, in the most recent Story of Seasons, they added rabbits as a means of getting fur. Or rabbit fur, I guess.
Yeah, that's in Stardew Valley as well.
Yeah. So, beyond dogs and cats, I don't know what else they're going to consider companion animals versus livestock animals.
So a minimum of 3 for sure, but probably more.
Yeah. Hopefully more. And I believe that I've seen that you can get kittens and puppies as well. So
I'm sold. Not that I haven't already bought the game, but if I hadn't, I'm now sold even. I'm sold again.
Double sold.
All right. Double sold. All right, let's move on to fishing. This is a mechanic in the game we've seen almost nothing about. All we've seen is a few seconds of the main character fishing and catching a derp fish. How will the process of fishing work? Is that something that's been discussed yet?
Yes. We don't have a set system that we're going to do. I know I'm saying that a lot, and I apologize.
Yes.
The reason being is because there's different ways that you can go about fishing. And it's a matter of, do we want it to be as simple as sit there and wait until the exclamation point appears above your head and then reel it in? Or do we want something a little more, complex than that? Or do we want to just frustrate everybody and go with the Stardew Valley system?
I love that system.
Really?
But I know plenty of people don't.
Oh
yes.
My god, I cannot stand it. Oh, no. I can't.
So from my viewpoint, there's the Stardew Valley system, which is just keep the fish in the bar. You've got like the Animal Crossing system where you have to cast in front of the shadow of the fish, and then pretty much just press A when it bites, or whatever key you're using, or button.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know in my time at Porsche, it has a different but kind of hybrid system. You have to cast it in front of the fish and then keep your cursor on the fish as it swims around. So there's a lot of different ways to do it,
mm-hmm.
but we're not sure as far as what system's going to be used. Has that not been?
Again, it is being discussed, and it's just a matter of deciding which system we want to do, whether we want to go with something a little more complex or not. It is also going to depend on whether or not we do aquaponics in terms of fish or underwater crop farming.
Can you explain what aquaponics is for those that don't know what that is?
So that would be anything regarding how you farm underwater, I guess. So breeding fish and, breeding fish like in a controlled environment, or growing seaweed or other maybe coral and stuff like that. So that would be aquaponics, basically underwater farming.
An example I saw on the Farm Folks Discord of aquaponics, someone had suggested it. They gave the example of fish in a fish tank, as well as plants, some of which are growing in the water, some on top of the water with the roots floating in the water. The plants produce oxygen for the fish release CO2 for the plants. It's a hybrid symbiotic relationship between the two.
Yeah, I don't.
That's
as cool as
separate
that would
from.
be. As cool as that
Go
would
ahead.
be, I don't know if the system would be that complex in terms of.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think a lot of the fishing element is going to depend on how we're going to handle aquaponics and such.
so when you say aquaponics, that's also including the underwater farming that's lumped in with one of the stretch goals, correct?
Correct.
Okay. As far as fishing goes, though, I know there will be different bodies of water. You'll obviously have the ocean. I'm going to guess there's a lake or pond of some sort, and then rivers. Those seem to be the 3 types of bodies of water you can fish in most games.
Mm-hmm.
Those are, I'm pretty sure, confirmed to be in the game.
Yep.
Will we be able to fish in all of those?
Yes. And there's going to be a couple of different kinds of fish. I mean, obviously, we've already seen derp fish, which is kind of a staple. I adore.
They look so ridiculous.
I know, I love them.
The big eyes.
But yes, there's going to be different bodies of water that you can fish in, including different types of fish that you can find in different bodies of water. Right now, the derp fish is just kind of our fishy mascot in terms of he's there and people kind of fell in love with him, and I don't think Ethan was expecting people to.
He's so adorable. How could they not?
I know, but Ethan makes everything adorable. He's done a fantastic job of making us fall in love with all of the different animals. So I'm not sure he was expecting people to love Derpfish or name him Derpfish.
Oh, that's a great surprise, though. I'm loving the derp fish.
Oh, definitely.
And speaking of just fish in general, are they lumped in with the total 40 to 50 animals at launch? Are those included in that 40 to 50 list, or are they their own category?
I think they're in their own category on that one.
Okay. So I was starting to go through my head on animals we've seen confirmed or I've seen concept art of, and we were getting into almost a dozen-ish that I've seen. And I'm thinking all the other animals that we would like to see, and you don't leave that much room for different fish if they're all
I think when we say 40 to 50 animals, we're talking about farm animals, pets, and wild animals, but I don't think fish are really going to be included in that.
Okay. Will there be like a collection list of sort? I know I'm personally like a completionist. That's one thing I love about Stardew Valley. You have a checklist for every single item in the game, and you can work towards completing that. That's something that keeps at least me personally playing for as long as I have, and I know a lot of others as well. Do you know if there will be any sort of list or aquarium we can go to donate our fish to, or even aquarium that we can keep to keep track of all the fish we've caught, or some sort of list system to keep track of that?
Yes, most likely. I mean, something like that's not difficult to add, and it's just a matter of, quality of life, making sure that people can keep track of what they've caught and what they haven't, or what they've grown and what they still need to, or how many crops they still have to unlock, and such like that. So yes, you're probably going to see some kind of system like that in the game.
And is it safe to assume that'll most likely take the form of some sort of journal entry or list?
Probably. Again, I don't know for sure on that one, because that's more of a quality of life thing, which will come down the line.
All right. Well, thank you. Moving on to crafting. As far as crafting is concerned, first of all, is it going to be a thing in the game?
Yes.
And secondly, if so, which you just confirmed it is, how in-depth is it going to be? Or how in-depth is it planning to be once we get to that stage in development?
So the idea behind crafting is there's going to be 2 different kinds of crafting. You will have the crafting in terms of like building your own fences, maybe fixing your own stuff on the farm, and then there will be artesian crafting, which is going to be stuff like making cheese and mayonnaise, which we've seen that's considered a type of crafting for us.
Okay.
However, when you get into more complex things like using different ores or using gems and such, from everything I understand, the player will not have the skills to do that. So you're going to have to rely more on the blacksmith or my baby Valente, the jeweler, to do the more high-end crafting.
Okay, yeah, I've seen from the trailer alone, you come back out of the mines with your ore, you can smelt it into bars yourself, but from that point, you take it to the blacksmith and they do with it what you need. Whether that's sprinklers or tool upgrades or furniture.
Right. I mean,
or in Valente's case, jewelry and trinkets.
Yeah, for just thinking in a realistic sense, a farmer can hammer together a fence, but a farmer is not going to know how to, craft a bar of iron into a sword, which maybe I shouldn't use sword. Craft a bar of iron into a new hoe.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to do that anyway, so that works. So some of those items, like you mentioned the artisan crafting, I'm assuming we'll need the respective artisan tool to do that. So a cheese press to make cheese, a keg to make grapes into wine. Mm-hmm. Are those going to be things that we can craft ourselves, just like the fences? Or is that going to be stuff that we have to go purchase from the general store, or if there's a carpenter or some other vendor?
So for the most part, it's probably going to be that you can craft a lot of the artisan benches on your own, because they don't require a whole lot. However, it's possible that more advanced artisan benches you'll need to have specially crafted.
So you mentioned the word benches.
Mm-hmm.
There was a screenshot on I forget the name of the update, but I'll put it up on screen. The artisan update, whatever it was, there were multiple artisan items, what I would recognize as, a cheese press, a mayonnaise maker, stuff like that. You say the word bench. Is there going to be a table associated with each of those that is sort of themed towards that good? Like cheese wheels on the cheese table? And
I'm not 100% sure for some of them. Bench has just kind of been the term that's been thrown around between me, Mitch, and Ethan for what we have so far.
Maybe I'm reading too much into that word.
So I don't know for sure. We only have a few artisan crafting stations, I guess, planned right now until a little later down the line.
Okay. Is there anything else crafting related you can share with us that I haven't probed for?
Not really. Yeah, not that I can really think of.
Okay. Moving on to some of the villagers. We've already seen 3 of the Bachelors and Bachelorettes. Mm-hmm. And you've teased a 4th that I, as you know, am excited about, the Baker Bachelorette. But some people saw these 3 and thought that was it. I know it's not, but can you give us a hint as to how many marriage candidates we can expect to see?
So
roughly,
I want to say 12 to 15.
Okay, that was going to be my guess. I was guessing 12 to 14.
Yeah, because there's going to be over 30 characters in the game, most of which we have, basic ideas of what these characters are. And there's only a couple of characters that, I don't think are dateable. One of whom is only not dateable because he's already got a wife, which, I guess, something about him being an old man and already having a wife.
Is this going to disappoint a certain someone's friend in the community?
No, the fisherman. He's an older fisherman gentleman, and he's got a wife. But, I mean, I have very strange standards.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask this for, you know who you are. Is Gilbert of Gilbert's Goods a romanceable bachelor?
I can't.
That look.
I can't say for sure, but I would love to see that even as an Easter egg. Even just being able to flirt with him would be funny.
Hilarious.
Just
I
fantastic.
agree. I'm sure you're not alone in that.
You know, love comes in all ages.
It does. Age is just a number, right? I'm sure Gilbert would agree.
I'm sure he would agree, actually. He's that kind of fella.
He is. And speaking of Gilbert, we know he's going to run a shop called Gilbert's Goods, which I'm assuming will be the general store on the island. There will also be a tailor, a barber, a blacksmith, a jeweler, a clinic, if you consider that, like a shop, and presumably a place where we go to buy our animals, which I'm guessing is going to be Della, the girl with the chicken from the trailer. Are there any other shops we can look forward to seeing? You mentioned there was a fisherman, maybe a fishing shop or like a flower shop or any of that?
Yeah. So you're going to have a few other different shops. We have sorry, I'm looking at a list and seeing which ones I can talk about. There's going to be a welcome center, which is kind of, I'm guessing, going to be like the town hall. And then you have the mad scientist. Mitch has mentioned this character before, so you're going to see probably some kind of lab setting.
Okay.
The mechanic shop, since, you know, you're going to have vehicles. You're going to need a mechanic. There will be a tavern. Which has one of my favorite characters personally that I'm very much looking forward to see later on.
Such a tease.
I know. The tavern keeper's great though. I can't wait. He's one of my favorite characters, and there's a very specific reason for that has to do with I'll say one of my favorite characters as well, that we've already seen. And let's see. Beyond that,
okay.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say on that.
No, I get that. It's fine.
And then we also have a DJ, so some kind of maybe entertainment.
Oh, I can get on board with that. Heck yes, that's cool.
So that's
anything else? That you're allowed to share? Is that it?
Not.
Are you allowed to share any function that these facilities will serve? Obviously, we know the general store, you can buy goods. The mechanic shop will repair your stuff.
Yeah.
The DJ will entertain people at festivals, and he's just a... I don't know.
I'm sure that there's going to be some kind of radio. This is the 1920s. They at least have radio.
Okay.
So maybe you'll hear this lovely character's voice through the radio, and then some music. We know that...
What is it, Three Dog from Fallout?
Let's see.
Get a little bit of that going. That could be fun.
Yeah.
What were you starting to say?
No, I was just saying, yeah, there's going to be some kind of fisherman hut where you can go for all your fisherman needs, or fisherwoman, or fisher
person needs.
Fisher person, there you go. Ace is the place with the helpful hardware folks. Yeah, I think most of what I've shared, you know, you can kind of assume what those buildings are going to exist for. You know, like the mechanic shop and such.
That's got me excited. All right. Okay, so the characters in Farm Folks, from what we've seen, are all they're just incredibly well done. Are we going to be having to imagine what they sound like? Are we going to have to use our imaginations and get creative with putting voices to the characters? Or are they going to have voice acting, I guess, is the quick way to get to what I'm asking.
Mitch has said that voice acting will not likely be in the game. Now, I don't know if that's going to be true for cinematic settings, like cutscene,
CGI
cutscenes, stuff like that. I don't know if that'll be the case, but generally out in the world, you're not going to see, you know, voice acting like you would in My Time at Portia. it'll probably just be a couple of like little stock sounds that they make when you talk to them.
Do you know if this was a design choice or was it implemented due to funding or some other sort of
I'm
variable?
pretty sure it has to do with funding, because getting good voice acting that's, you know, relatively the same across the board is very expensive.
Okay, I will practice my accents. Thank you. And I'm sorry. Okay, on to the lovely question, which I highly doubt I'm going to get an answer for. Combat. Where do we stand with that? I personally, to give a little backstory on the combat debate, I was personally on board for combat, but then I heard that there was a discussion going on in a Reddit post regarding combat, and I don't know if it was you that posted the original post on that, or someone from the dev team, but it made me rethink combat ever so slightly. It's going to take a lot of work to implement combat into the game. It's going to take, even if they devoted just one of the developers to it until launch, that's 20% of their resources, because the dev team is 5 people with other people helping out.
Yes.
It's a lot of work, and so basically they said the core gameplay experience isn't going to be as good if they have to devote resources to combat, but it's still up in the air, at least as far as we're concerned. Can you give us any inclination one way or the other?
So yes, I was the one that, and just speaking as a fan and not as part of the Overgrown team, I was against combat from the beginning. Mostly because this is supposed to be a Harvest Moon style game, and Harvest Moon doesn't really do combat. It exists purely as a farming game, and when you come to combat, you have to include, you know, the different assets of, you know, mobs to fight, a whole system behind the combat itself. You know, you have
weapons to fight them with,
and just there's a lot of work that has to be put into adding combat. And honestly, there are thousands of games out there with combat. You know, not every game has to have combat. So I think that, in a sense, if you're not doing a game that requires combat, or if you're going to do a game where combat is not going to be the focus, do it well or not at all. So that's my personal take on it. I would rather have a game that has a very strong core system of farming mechanics and a very solid idea of what it is, rather than a game that's trying to do a lot of everything because it doesn't want to disappoint people. So again, that's just me talking as a fan of the game, because I very much am a fan of the game. That's why I got involved in this project to begin with.
And as a community manager,
As a community manager, I am at this time not allowed to say what our decision on combat is.
Totally didn't see that coming.
I will say that the answer is a little obvious at this point, given where the discussions have gone. But that's about all I can say on the matter.
So the way I interpret that is go read the Reddit thread. I'll have it in the description down below, and read for yourself, and whatever direction that seems to be heading towards is probably what's going to be in the game.
Yes.
But no official word.
I can't say anything officially.
She's not allowed, I don't believe. She wants to, but she can't.
I do want to. Because that is something that we have decided on. It's just a matter of we haven't decided to go public.
Fair enough. All right, moving on to a topic that I don't know why I'm so excited about, but it sounds awesome. Okay, the town itself. On Softshell Island, the town in the game is Port Meridia, and it's been hinted, I don't remember where I saw this, I'll put the screenshot up when I find it, but it's been hinted that we might be able to upgrade and or add buildings to the town itself. do you have any idea how that's going to work? What those buildings are? Is that going to be driven by, the way I see it being done is like progression in relationships with villagers, and you're able to gain access to adding, I don't know, like an observatory for Silas or something at some point. But that's just me speculating. Do you know how that's going to be handled?
So I know that Ethan, at the very least, really likes the idea of being able to upgrade the town or being able to add aspects to the town as you go on. I'm a big fan of, letting the world around you evolve and change, with people wearing different outfits, depending on the weather and such.
New villagers coming and going, new buildings being added.
Right.
Shop inventories changing.
Shop inventories will be changing.
Talking out of excitement.
Yeah. We have right now the set buildings and villagers that will be in the town. At this point, we are still partially designing the town and kind of deciding, how we want to go about adding new things or adding new characters later on. My idea behind this is that the town can be upgraded and done through possibly DLC in the future. Whether free or paid, I don't know. But that would probably be the easiest way to go about it and keep us out of, spending 5 years as an early access title. Focus on the main town, get all the main characters in there, and then later on, through DLC, you can expand the town, add new characters, new romance options and such.
Okay. I'm not gonna push that one further.
Sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine. Onto some game mechanics, and I've got a few more to ask than I've got listed here. But first off, how long will the in-game days be in real-life minutes? Some games have it super fast, some are way too short, and you can't. That's the same thing. Some are way too long, some are way too short. You don't have enough time to get done what you want. Do you know how many real-life minutes an in-game day lasts?
So you're not gonna like the answer to this one.
It hasn't been discussed yet?
No, it is actually actively being discussed, as we speak.
But we don't know yet?
All of us have different ideas on how we want to do that and how much time. So, while it is being discussed, we are not sure at this time, because we all have different concepts of, what's too long, what's too short. The idea of real time was thrown around, and I was like, please no. Please no.
A 24/7
oh, please no.
Sustained world.
I don't think that would work for a game like this.
I don't think so.
No.
I
was
guess
just...
I shouldn't ask my follow-up question of, will time stop when we're in conversations or cutscenes or in buildings?
That will probably be a thing.
Okay.
Assuming we're not going on the 24-hour clock system, which please no.
Please don't. Please don't.
I don't think we will. Like I said, that was an idea that was tossed out and then quickly dismissed.
Shut down, I hope.
Shut down by me, because I'm like, please no. But I'm pretty sure that yes, talking to people, cutscenes and stuff like that, they will be paused in terms of time.
Ooh. Okay, glad I did ask. On a similar kind of time note, when you go to bed for the night, or I guess the better way to phrase this is, if you don't go to bed, is there any sort of penalty for not doing so? In Stardew Valley, you pass out, you wake up, you lose some of your items, there's a fee associated with it, and you don't have as much energy the next day. In my time at Portia, given it's still an early access title, there's zero penalty whatsoever. Do you guys know where you fall on the spectrum?
I believe we're going to be going with somewhere in the middle in terms of you can stay up all night, but you're not going to be fun the next day, kind of thing.
So maybe some sort of stamina or energy penalty.
Well, the way that I see it, if you don't sleep, you don't regain your stamina. So, you can.
So you're just gonna be pretty unproductive the next day.
Right. You can stay up all night, but then, you still have the same energy bar that you were using the previous day. So if you used all your energy, you're kind of SOL.
When you say you could stay up all night, and again, I read into things probably too much. Is it going to be you can actually stay up all night, midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m., and your day continues from there? Or are you going to get hit with a black screen? It's like, oh my gosh, you passed out, and wake up the next morning?
So, not 100% on that one. However, I do know that there's at least one quest where you have to be out very late at night. And from what I understand, the quest basically takes all night. So, take that as you will.
Okay. Extrapolate how you guys see fit. Speaking of quests, how is that going to be handled? Is there going to be a main storyline? I know there's been some vague hints on the Kickstarter campaign main page about you're gifted a ship by your brother, you crash land on Softshell Island, that's how you get there in the first place, but in doing so, you lose some of your memories, and you're trying to figure out how that goes. Is there going to be a main storyline or main quest line that's focused on that, in addition to side quests for all the random villagers?
Yes. And from the way that I've seen that Henry wants to do things, there will be a main storyline that you follow. I'm not sure how long or short that is. I would say on the longer end, more likely, because, generally farming games take years of in-game time.
Mm-hmm.
But all of the characters in the world have fantastic personalities. Very story-rich, and a lot of quests planned for them. So it's the way that I understand it to be is going to be less of a pump gifts into this person until they like you, and more they actually have a storyline and a personality and I guess a quest line that you have to go through, whether they're friends or romance candidates. Henry has come up with some really awesome ideas for characters, and I hope that we see really in-depth systems for that.
That's exciting. I like that, and not just here's an egg every single day until I marry you. Because that's the thing in a lot of games, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, like just for instance, Valente. Everybody knows he's my favorite character. He's my baby.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I pushed for him to have the Hugh Hefner coat that he has. Like, that was my thing. I was like, give him that coat, please. Originally, the coat was made to be, I think, a light blue to match the original color of his eyes. And I was like, no. Hugh Hefner red. Hefner red. I might have taken over the design of Valente a little bit, so. But
just
he
goes to show the influence you have. That's good.
But Valente has a very awesome personality and storyline that you can kind of dig into with the history of his father and the history of his family. He comes from a long line of jewelers, and he's following in his father's footsteps. He came to Soft Shoal from the mainland because he kept hearing about all of these rare gems, but now the mines are closed off. So that's kind of where his story is starting out, and then you find out more about his past and, his family, and again, he has a really fantastic depth to him, and a lot of the characters do. And Henry is still working on making that even deeper.
That's exciting. So the takeaway from that, characters are going to be super fleshed out and awesome, and you're not going to be able to go mining on day one. That's what I got out of that.
Yes.
If the mines are closed down, there's going to be, I'm assuming, some sort of quest to get them back open again, because that's definitely one of the places you'll be doing a lot of your mining.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yay. I'm excited. Okay. You mentioned there's a main quest line, and without, I understand you can't give away spoilers or anything, but other than just completing the main quest line, and I'm totally fine if you answer my question with that as an answer, complete the main quest line, what is the goal of the game? Like, what are we striving towards? We've crashed on an island, we're given a farm, and then what?
So
what are we working towards?
For the base game, it's pretty much going to be exactly what you said. Complete the main story.
And again, by base game, you mean alpha or base game, like full release?
Base game full release. So when the game comes out, the way that I understand it, the story is going to be the primary thing that you follow. Just finishing the main story doesn't mean that you have to be done with the game, because there's still going to be tons of stuff to do. As per Harvest Moon, you can finish the game and then keep playing for 80 years after that. Stardew Valley is the same way. So there's not going to be any lack of things to do just because the main story is finished. However, afterwards, DLC will probably add a lot more story elements, a lot more questing elements, storylines and such. So.
All right. Well, it sounds like DLC is definitely something that's planned, but you said we don't know if it's going to be free or paid. That'll have to be something that's determined later.
I'm pretty sure that it'll be a system of, depending on the size, small DLC with maybe 1 or 2 things in it would be free, but then large packs, maybe probably expansion type things with a lot of stuff in them would be paid.
So DLCs versus expansions is something that's being considered?
Yes. There will be, it's already been stated, but I will state again for the record, no microtransactions. So you're not going to see...
Yay!
You're not going to see a cash shop.
You mean I can't get loot boxes with hoe upgrades in them?
No, we're not owned by EA.
Oh, that's a great answer. On the quest system again, I'm thinking back, my experience with farming sims is some of the very earlier Harvest Moon games, Harvest Moon 64 on the N64, Harvest Moon Back to Nature on the PS1. I played the GameCube version, the original Harvest Moon games, at least what I consider original, as well as Stardew Valley. In both of those games, the goal was basically get your farm to a presentable point by a certain point in time. For most of them, it was end of year 2 or end of year 3. Is there going to be any sort of time gate behind the main quest line? Like, are you going to need to progress to winter of year 1 before you can do this particular step? Or if someone wanted to, could they just rush through it as fast as they could and be done with the game early on?
Because we haven't set up the exact quests yet, we have a fairly strong idea of the different quests that we want to do. Nowhere near finished in terms of how many quests or how difficult they will be. I don't have an answer for you on that one.
Okay.
Mitch is personally a fan of more freedom for the player, so I don't see him locking a whole lot behind time gates. But there are a couple. For instance, I know that you mentioned mining, how you can't go down into the mines on day 1. Mining is kind of a thing that you unlock in stages. So at first you will be in the quarry, and then after you do the quarry for a little while, then you get access to the mines. I don't know how quickly that's going to be unlocked.
Yeah, because I've seen on the Kickstarter campaign main page, there was a sort of a timeline for how the game's going to develop between now and the full release. And I know Quest implementation isn't planned until even after the alpha.
Mhm.
So I know that hasn't been considered yet, but it's something to keep in mind. I like that it's not planned on being locked behind time gates. I know Mitch has said plenty of times before he values player freedom.
Mhm.
So that's something to keep in mind, but I just wanted to ask.
Yeah.
And other than... So once you've completed the game, I know you said there's a bunch of different side quests for all the different storylines for all the characters, and I'm assuming just general side quest material. Other than that, assuming people just love farming, is there much... What's being added to this game that adds replayability to it, I guess is what I'm asking.
So in terms of the retention value for the game, which is replayability, that would be along the same lines as, why do people keep playing Harvest Moon? Or why do people keep playing Stardew Valley after they finish the main campaign? And that's primarily because they're relaxing experiences, zen experiences. You generally always have a goal of, I want to get my crops all to 5 stars, or I want to get all my animal products to 5 stars. I want to beat everyone in all the different cow shows. I want to be friends with everybody. There's a lot of stuff to do that you won't be able to just do probably in the time frame of the main quest line.
All right, so it's sort of up to your love of farming games to determine how much you're going to get out of the game, I guess. Yeah. And that's fine by me, because I love farming games.
Well, if you look at a game like Animal Crossing, there is no storyline. What's the point of playing it? But I've dumped 800 hours into Animal Crossing New Leaf because I just like watering my flowers every day. Log in and just be like, here, I'm gonna water. I spent so many hours getting all of these pink tulips for my town, and oh no, the lion is trampling all over my pink tulips. I need to make sure that he doesn't do that kind of thing. So I think it comes down to the type of game that you enjoy and whether or not you want to make your own fun in the game.
That's a solid answer. I like that. All right, I've got a couple random questions that have just come to mind while we're doing on this. You mentioned cow shows. Can you elaborate at all about festivals in the game? Or is that something that is either not developed yet, or...
We have a couple of ideas at the moment for different festivals. Usually they coincide with different holidays specific to like a Halloween event kind of thing. Things like animal shows or crop shows have been discussed, and that's going to tie in a lot to the quality system that we decide on.
Yeah.
But I do know that we have ideas for stuff like that. It's just, again, a matter of how we're going to implement it, and that being currently undecided.
All right. One thing I glossed over by accident, we've seen in... And this is just, I'm asking this because I'm a nerd. We've seen that on Soft Shell Island, there will be rainy days. I've seen something on the Discord about that, and obviously that's not too out of the ordinary for a farming sim. You'll have sunny days. You'll also have snowy days. We've seen some blizzard shots, which look absolutely awesome. Are there any other weather effects we can expect to see? Maybe fog, or I don't even know what else I would expect, but...
Well, see, one of the problems that you have when being faced with an island environment is that storms can be very unpredictable. So...
Is that where you're going to leave that one?
I'm going to leave that one there.
That's enough for me. Unpredictability is good. I like that. Rather than just rain or sun. What was it? Rain, sun, sleet, or hail will deliver what you mail? Wasn't that an Animal Crossing thing?
If it was, I don't remember. I actually didn't start...
Office?
I didn't start playing Animal Crossing until New Leaf, so I'm actually still relatively new to that one.
Ah, okay. That's a reference that some of you might get. maybe not. I don't know. Okay. Release date. So you guys have done a fantastic job building up hype for this game via the trailer. Obviously, I'm hyped for it because I can't stop making videos about it out of the littlest of things just to keep the hype train moving. But the hype also makes people anxious to get their hands on it. And for people like me who purchased the alpha, we know we have a set date, December of this year, to get our hands on it, so we know how long we have to wait. But for anyone else who purchased beta access or the base game or has yet to buy any of these, they don't have a clue when they're going to get their hands on it. Well, they have a 12-month time frame sometime in 2019. Is there any possibility of getting... I know the release date is probably off the table, but is there any possibility of getting any more of a narrowed window of expectancy for the beta?
So this is not me speaking as a member of Overgrown. This is me speaking as someone who's been in the games industry for a while and who has seen how things operate. Personally, I think that the 2019 release date is a little soon. I think that we'll likely see beta access in late 2019, maybe around August. But full release, I would, and again, this is just me speaking from seeing how long games do take to develop, probably not until 2020, would be my guess. And I know that's probably not an answer that a lot of people will like, but that's just me trying to be a little more realistic about the timetable.
And I also understand not being able to give specific dates. The alpha is like their first checkpoint, and depending on what sort of bugs the community finds while doing their alpha testing, the more bugs we find, the more bugs need fixing, the longer that takes, the longer the beta takes to get released. So I totally understand not being able to give a concrete beta date because of how much it depends on still.
Yeah.
So it'd be a promise that they couldn't deliver upon. So,
well, especially with game development in the last, I'd say, 10 years, with early access being a thing and with more and more people being involved in the game development process, finding bugs is a bigger thing than it used to be. Back in, I'd say 2005, when game developers were making a game, they had maybe 24 testers. Depending on the size of the game, maybe 24 alpha testers and then maybe 200 beta testers before the game launched, and those people were expected to find all the bugs. But now when you're talking about early access, you have thousands of eyes on your game. Thousands of people playing and tearing it apart and telling you, well, this is a bug, even though it's not actually a bug, it's not repeatable, it's maybe some kind of system error with your computer conflicting with the code. There's a lot more issue, but there's also a lot more things to fix.
I'm just looking forward to getting my hands on the game and testing it and getting to play with all the stuff that we've talked about and seen for so long now, and it's exciting.
Trust me, even I'm excited to see how the game progresses and see it move into a more stable state. I want you guys to have your hands on it. I want to see it get out to the public, and trust me, it's something I've been pushing for pretty much nonstop. So,
well, hopefully we'll get it soon. All right, and one last question that I know everyone's asking about, at least those that purchased the game through Kickstarter. Surveys for add-ons and whatnot. When can those be expected to be coming out? Any idea?
I have learned not to try and assume when stuff like that will be ready. There were some there have been some complications that we haven't foreseen regarding those. You know, I figured they would be a simple thing. They're not actually as simple as I thought. So they will be out when we can get them out, and that is something that I have been pushing for. It's not something that we've forgotten about by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a matter of kind of overcoming a couple of things that we didn't foresee.
That makes perfect sense. And I just remembered one question that we wanted to discuss, and I'm glad I remembered it. Mm-hmm. So throughout this entire interview, if you want to call it that, we've compared Farm Folks to obviously Harvest Moon, as you yourself said, and as the Kickstarter page states, it's a spiritual successor, or it gives a nod to the classical Harvest Moon games, I think is the verbiage used on the Kickstarter page. But how are you going to how is Farm Folks going to differentiate itself from similar games like Stardew Valley? Or I know a lot of people are comparing it to My Time at Portia just because it's a 3D farming sim, even though My Time at Portia isn't a farming sim by any stretch of the imagination. People are still going to compare it. Mm-hmm. How do you guys, one, react to comparisons like that, and two, what are you going to do to differentiate yourselves, make yourselves stand out?
So, to the first question, people always look to make comparisons with things. So, I've kind of stressed to the team to not take it to heart when people say, oh, well, this sounds like Stardew Valley, or this looks like My Time at Portia. People always look to make comparisons. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means that that is their current concept of what that game genre is. For instance, we see crafting games and we automatically assume Minecraft. One of the more recent ones is Monster Hunter World just came out, and I can't tell you how many people have said, oh, well, this is just a Dark Souls clone. Okay, it's a Dark Souls clone. Dark Souls came out in 2011. Monster Hunter came out in 2004. Yeah, it's a Dark Souls clone. But people are always going to try and make those comparisons, and that's fine. People who want to be insulting, trying to say that, oh, well, this is just a Stardew Valley clone. Not really. And as you said, My Time at Portia is, I think, in the genre of, you know, kind of a Zen experience. You know, the focus on community and all that. I think that's a fair assessment to make, but I think that My Time at Portia is also very much its own game. It has a relatively interesting combat system and a world that's more kind of focused around combat and crafting. But when it comes to being compared to something like Stardew Valley, I always point out that Stardew Valley was also a Harvest Moon clone. The only difference being that, you know, even though Harvest Moon came first, it was a niche title. We'd been begging for years, and I say we, personally, I'm a huge fan of Harvest Moon. I've played damn near every iteration since 1996, when it first came out. And Stardew Valley is basically a Harvest Moon clone. But because Harvest Moon was a niche game, and because not a lot of people knew about it, they only understand that Stardew Valley was the first farming game in that kind of genre, not including, you know, things like farm sim or agricultural sim, where those are more heavy duty based on the realistic aspects of farming, not the, you know, sit down for 20 minutes and play a colorful game kind of thing. But Stardew Valley, I think, tried to do a lot of things. I think it tried to be a jack of all trades and do everything, and in that aspect lost a lot of the things that make me love Harvest Moon games, which I think that Farm Folks is focusing more on the Harvest Moon farming aspect, whereas Stardew Valley kind of tried to be all-inclusive, where we have combat, we have farming, we have crafting, we have, this world that we've set up. Now, all respect to Concerned Ape. His work is fantastic, and he made an amazing game, and I am eternally grateful for what he did to that genre and bringing it to the computer. And Natsume had said for years, when people asked about bringing Harvest Moon to the computer or to the major consoles, they said, no, it's a niche title, no one wants to see it on those titles, or on those systems, I apologize. And then Stardew Valley comes out and just kicks the teeth in out of everything and shows everyone that it's only a niche title because you hadn't released it, on systems where people would see it. That was a very long answer for a very basic question.
To part one.
To part one. I think I kind of answered part two as well, being that Farm Folks is differentiating itself because we are focusing more heavily on the farming aspect of things and making sure that the game keeps true to its Harvest Moon roots and trying not to incorporate too much outside of that.
Just to throw a quick stat out there, I've already made a video on everything we know about farming in Farm Folks, and at launch there's going to be, you guys said 40 to 50 crops, which is already more than Stardew Valley has after being out for almost 2 years now, I think. So it's starting out with a robust, at least, crop selection. We'll have to wait and see how deep the rabbit hole goes when it comes to actually farming mechanics, but
well, one of the other things,
it's promising.
One of the other things I noticed with Stardew Valley is that no connection to my animals, which for me, Harvest Moon, animals were a huge thing. I always went with the ranching side of things. I had as many animals as I can get my hands on. And Stardew Valley, I could have 100 cows, sure, but I never really felt any sort of connection to them, and it almost felt kind of superfluous. So,
I know what you mean.
In Farm Folks, we've already fallen in love with the design of the cows and the chickens and the Alola, and everything has so much more personality, and I look forward to having those animals on my farm, rather than just being something to right-click on and have a heart appear above its head. So.
But that's so fun and engaging.
Engaging gameplay.
I'm trying to think of any other questions I wanted to ask. And I just came up with one. As far as, and we're kind of bringing it back, as far as the farm itself is concerned, how much do we know about that? Will the plot of land be expandable? As far as locations for like a barn and a coop, are those... Because I know in some of the older Harvest Moon games, your barn goes here, your coop goes here, because it was a fixed location. In Stardew Valley, you can place it wherever the heck you want on the farm. Are we going to have flexibility when it comes to adding buildings? Are we going to be able to expand the land? Is our house going to be expandable? I know pretty sure the house is going to be upgradable, but
so
to what extent,
yes,
I'm not sure.
Yes and yes. Expandable.
Flexibility, expansion, and expansion.
Yes. We'll be able to expand the size of our farm. I'm not sure how that's going to happen, whether or not it's buying more land or whether or not you have to upgrade a tool to a certain point to start clearing out the land, after you've cleared out a certain portion, and then you're like, oh, well, this is a hardwood tree and I need a gold axe to cut it down, which, really, that doesn't make much sense. Gold isn't very sturdy.
Gold is so weak and flimsy, but...
Anyway, so I'm not sure on how that's going to be handled, but I do know that farm expansion is a thing that has been confirmed. From what I understand, in terms of buildings and being able to place them. You will be able to set up your farm generally how you wish, whether you want to focus more on having a bunch of barns and coops and focusing on animals, or if you want to focus on having more plot space for farming plants and such, crops, or if you want to go somewhere in the middle. There's going to be flexibility in terms of that. And then house upgrades have absolutely been confirmed, and being able to place furniture inside of your house has also been confirmed.
On the note of placing furniture in the house, I know there will be trinkets in the game. Do we know what kind of effects these will have? I've seen the wording trinkets for your home on one of the updates. Do we know if that's going to play into any stats or how that will affect us?
I do not know the answer to that one. That's not even one that I kind of have an answer for. I legitimately don't know how that's going to be handled.
Okay. Fair enough. And then back to the farm customization real quick. You mentioned the plots. Are those going to be for farming, obviously, but are those going to be customizable in size or just in location? Are we going to be able to make a giant field if we want?
This is another thing being discussed, and this is also one where I'll say Mitch values freedom for the players. But
just judging from the trailer itself, there were what looked like fixed plots.
Right.
But that's judging by something that's thrown together how many months before the release of the game, so.
You also have to consider that is a look at the farm as it starts and when you get it. So the way that I'm pretty sure it's going to be is that you can set plots however you like for farming crops and such.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not sure how it's going to be handled. Because if you look in Harvest Moon, A New Beginning, up to the current story of seasons, you can't just free plow the land how you want. You actually have to set these 2x6 plots. And again, this is Harvest Moon and how they're handling it. But you have to place those down. I'm not sure if we're going to go with a system like that, or if we're going to go with some sort of free plow where you can, mark the land in whatever way that you want.
All right. Well, I look forward to finding that out. Because, like you said, freedom is something that's important to a lot of people, myself included.
And as soon as I get more information on this, we will have it out for the players. So for as much as I've said, I don't know or I can't say, as soon as I'm allowed to, I will absolutely be getting that information to you.
And speaking of getting more information, do you guys have a set update schedule that you're going to attempt to adhere to? Like, we can expect a Kickstarter update every so often? Or, because I know during the Kickstarter, updates were pretty frequent, which I understand during a Kickstarter. But since then, we've gotten a thank you and not much new stuff. And I know people are kind of itching to get their hands on more.
So that is, that's because we're still kind of sorting through everything that we got from the Kickstarter and discussing how we want to handle certain things. We don't want to push out information to the community that's either going to be drastically changed or just simply not be there.
Mm-hmm.
But very soon we're going to start having updates very frequently. I'm thinking the way that I want to handle it is at least one Kickstarter update a month for the Kickstarter backers, and then I personally want to do at least a devlog every other week in terms of how the game is progressing.
Do you know where that would be posted?
We are going to be having a website up very shortly.
Separate from the Critivo site?
Separate from the Critivo site.
Okay.
And then all of our dev blogs will be posted there, along with most likely our Kickstarter updates, which are just going to be whatever information you would most likely have in the devlogs.
Cool.
So.
With photos and stuff to get excited about.
Yes.
I would hope.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else you wanted to mention while we've got everyone? That's it for the questions I had.
So, again, I know that I've said I don't know to a lot of this stuff, but that I can't say. I just want to stress that Mitch and Ethan and me and Henry, we don't want to give incorrect information or promise a product that is not going to be given to the player. So I understand, as someone who has followed a lot of games in the past, it can be very frustrating to hear I don't know or I can't say, but it's even more frustrating to hear, oh, well, this is going to happen this way, and then find out shortly down the line that we've completely overhauled how we're going to handle that system.
Take No Man's Sky, for example.
Take No Man's Sky, for example. On that, we are not shooting for the moon. We're not trying to make a whole universe with 14 quintillion planets.
Fair.
We want to make a very solid, robust game that people can come back to for years, and we want to make a foundation of a game that we can continue building on for years. So this is only the beginning. We're going to have a lot more information for you coming soon, and I have always been an advocate of show more to the players. So as soon as we have that information, I will have it for you guys. I promise.
She's pushy.
I
It'll
am.
hopefully be happening.
I am a bully.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of this interview, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions that we didn't cover here, please leave them either in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them, or if you want, head over to the Farm Folks Discord, which I'll have linked down in the description below. There's a questions section where myself, Julie, the other mods, the entire community, even the devs themselves can be there to answer those for you. So if you have a question, within minutes, usually someone's responding. So that's a good place if you have those questions. But Julie, thank you once again. I appreciate your time and all the answers that you were able to give. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. And thank you for all the videos that you've been doing. You've been doing a fantastic job, and all of us on the team have seen them and noticed them, and we think you're awesome. So,
well, thank you very much. I don't plan on stopping them anytime soon. But thank you guys once again for watching. We'll see you, or not we, I will see you soon. And until then, as always, take care.